So the sign that you're bad with money, every inconvenience is an emergency. The flip of that is emergencies become just inconveniences, right? Like I don't like having to fix my car when it breaks down. Not so much because I have to spend the money, but because I have to like take time out of my day to bring the car to the mechanic and then go and find somebody to help me. But it's not an emergency. It's not a pants on fire situation because I set money aside for it every single month.
How you make it, how you wanna make it, how you make it, how
You are not alone.
No, you are not. Well, welcome back, Ernie. Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're talking about 5 signs you're bad with money. and so it's a little spicy.
Yeah, I don't know if we've done anything spicy like this on the Budget Nerds before.
Yeah, we've been talking about this. Like, maybe you're feeling like you're bad with money. YNAB can help you get good with money, so you don't have to worry about money anymore, right? And what do we mean, though, Ernie, when we say bad with money? Are we saying like you're a bad person, that you're a monster?
Oh my goodness! Of course not. No, this is not bad. Like you're a bad person or any kind of like moral failure kind of way. I mean, I think the way we think about it is, you're bad with money the same way that you're bad at parallel parking. Maybe no one ever taught you a system. So you're just out there, you're white knuckling it and hoping for the best.
Speak for yourself, though, Ernie. I'm pretty good at parallel parking.
Well,
I fancy myself as a pretty good parallel parker, but it's because somebody taught me. Right?
I'm so glad you said that because that's kind of like my go-to analogy because I think a lot of people can relate, but
most people are bad at it.
I rock the parallel parking. Like there is nothing that I love more than pulling up in the minivan to a tight spot and just working that thing backwards, just perfectly.
Well, and now I have the backup camera, so I could do it like so good. But I don't even need it. No. But for real, like if you're bad at parallel parking, you're not a bad person. It's just something you're not good at yet, and you can learn to get good at it. And if you're bad with money, you're not a bad person. It's just something that you might not be good at yet because you haven't learned how.
Right. It's a skill. Like with parallel parking, there is a definite technique. Like I could teach a person in 2 minutes how to be good at parallel parking. It's just, it's a very specific skill and it's a system, a methodical system. And money is the same thing. There's certain things that you can learn to do. You can acquire that skill. You can get better at that skill and get good at money.
All right. So that's what we're talking about here. So 5 signs you're bad with money and what it means to be good with it. Okay. So that's what we're going to go through here. And yeah, I think we should just jump in. Oh, special thing too today, though. We have a YNAB win for each of these signs to show you kind of what it looks like to be good with these things. So that'll be fun. We're not just doing 2 YNAB wins. We're doing 5, and it's going to be all through the episodes.
Yeah, I thought this would be a great place to focus those wins because this episode is all about transformation. It's that transformation from bad with money to good with money that so many of us have experienced. So let's highlight that with, wins from our community.
Yeah, the people speak for themselves. So let's jump in. The first sign that you are bad with money is you worry about your everyday spending. Every time you swipe the card, every time you go to the grocery store, every time you go out to eat, just like the day-to-day spending, you worry about it almost every single time.
And there's a lot of second guessing, right? You're never certain that what you just did was a good decision. Maybe it's in the moment, you're like, oh crud. Maybe I should have saved that money for something else. Or maybe it's later on down the line, but like you're always kind of ruminating on like, was that good enough? Or should I done something different?
Yeah, and that's the key thing here too, is it's not just like, oh, I'm being irresponsible and I know it. You know what I mean? It's more like, I just don't know. That's where there's worry all the time because you're like, I don't know whether or not I can really afford this. I don't know whether or not I'm going to need that money later. You're just kind of spending based on vibes and it's stressful. It's worry. You're just full of worry all the time. And that's a sign that you might not be good with money yet. You might be bad with money right now. And I should say too, real quick, especially this one, I think all of them, but especially this one, I'm not talking about folks that don't make enough money to cover their basics, right? I'm talking about people that make enough to cover their basic needs but they still worry about money anyway, right? And I think that's the vast majority of the people watching this right now. There are some folks who are like, Ben and Ernie, like I'm really on the edge. I don't make enough money to cover these things. And I think naturally, yeah, you're going to worry about your everyday spending because you just don't have enough. But most of us have enough, but still worry. And that's what I'm talking about here.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because absolutely, sometimes it just comes down to an income issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's what it looks like to worry about your everyday spending. Just like every time you spend, you don't know whether or not you need that money for something else. And you're just constantly, it's like this constant like voice in the back of your head, just you're never sure.
Right.
You're never spending with assurance.
It's a lack of clarity and also a lack of confidence. And I think a good example of what this actually looks like out in life is you go to the store, maybe it's grocery shopping.
Yeah.
And you're like, how much can I spend on groceries? Because you have a finite amount. So you open up your banking app, look at your checking account balance, and then the mental math starts.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I got this one, and you're trying to remember everything, and you're trying to like space them out and time them just right to figure out how much you can spend. But at the end, it's just this guess. And you're like, well, I'm not really quite sure what I can spend at the grocery store, but I think this is my most accurate number.
I remember that feeling even when I was quote unquote budgeting, even when I was planning, like I set like spending limits on certain things. It was better than just nothing. But even then, because I didn't have a zero-based plan, because I didn't give every dollar a job, I was always still a little worried, like, oh, am I going to need this money for something else? Something that I'm not thinking about right now, something more important. And so it's just this constant worry. And it's just the worst way to live because even when things are fine, you feel like they're not fine. You feel like you're constantly like besieged all the time by stress. When really the reality is you might be totally fine to spend. You might even be able to spend more than you think you can, but you don't know. You just don't know because you haven't weighed all the trade-offs, right?
Yeah, so you're in a very reactive position. I remember this as well. In fact, in my early adult years, I always thought I was good at money because I have never, ever paid a late bill. Every bill has been on time, but every time I paid a bill, I was like, oh man, like I didn't know what that meant for my finances going forward. There was just this hesitation, this like, not despair, but just like kind of holding my breath of like, oh boy, can I make it till that next paycheck? I sure hope so.
Yeah, that's the thing too. It's like you can look from the outside, like you're good with money. You pay all your bills, you pay your credit card payment on time, you never pay interest, like things like that. But I still think you could be bad with money because you're worrying about all your spending too.
Right.
And when it's an everyday thing, when it's like all your just regular spending, because we spend money every day. When it's an everyday thing, it just cuts down on so many things in your life.
Oh my goodness, there's a wear and tear on your mental side, your emotional side, even the physical side as well.
Yeah. So many people are living like this. So what does it look like to be good with money, to not worry about your everyday spending? Well, I think it's pretty obvious what we're going to say. You give every dollar a job, right? You do the YNAB method. You plan your spending.
Right. You're proactive.
Exactly. So you're okay. So you plan ahead and you consider everything at once. When you're in a good frame of mind, you look at your finite pool of money and you decide how you're going to spend it ahead of time. You almost like spend your money before you actually spend your money.
Yeah.
Right. And then you deal with all the constraints and all the finiteness of your money, the scarcity of your money right then. And then when you actually go spend it, you know you're okay because you already dealt with all of that uncertainty. You made it, you brought clarity to your finances because you planned it out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Giving jobs to those dollars, deciding what that money needs to do before we even spend a dime of it, a penny of it.
Yep.
Proactive approach.
And so what this looks like is every single time you get paid, and you got to do it every time you get paid, you ask yourself, okay, what does this money need to do before I get paid again? And I really like that framing because it puts a time frame on it. You say, okay, what do I need to take care of between now and the next time I get paid?
Mm-hmm.
And you set money aside for those things, and you're going to take care of, it helps you prioritize. You're going to take care of your most important things first. And then when you finish that, you might move on to other things. But that way, you know, you can kind of just silence that voice in your head that's always worrying all the time and say, no, I took care of it because I considered everything between now and my next paycheck, and I covered it before I actually spent.
That's what I love about this. It works so quickly. Like, so take a brand new YNABer, like someone who just signed up right now during this episode, YNAB.com/nerds if that's you. But you just signed up. What you could actually, you don't even need to sign up. Just look at your bank balance right now.
Yeah.
And then on a piece of paper, give every dollar a job. Like, decide what that money needs to do between now and that next paycheck. And in that 5-minute exercise, you can have clarity and confidence and right away feel better about your money, right? Just as you said, watch that money, feel that money worry just kind of dissipate.
Exactly. Yeah. You can have it right now. It just takes this one practice, and then you do it over, and you're going to want to do it again and again, over and over again for the rest of your life because it's just a better way to live. Michelle M emailed us. Do you want to read this one?
I do want to read this one because it's near and dear to my heart, and you'll see why in just a moment here.
Okay. Yeah, you go for it.
Michelle says, I paid for a subscription in mid-July 2025 with a new mindset to force myself to really use it. And honestly, I have no idea what was wrong with me in the free trial days. This app is fantastic. I had no idea I had so much money. Seriously, where did it all come from? I went from living paycheck to paycheck to getting a month ahead within 6 weeks. I have $11,000 in credit card debt that suddenly feels like I can pay this off faster than I originally planned without sacrificing all my joys in life. Today, a mere 6 weeks into my true YNAB journey, I did a Costco shop. Right? You see here?
Oh, I see.
I used a list and bought everything I needed, a few extra sale items that we need in the near future, or plus a few extra sale items. I even bought meat, which, Costco, you're buying in bulk. So we're talking,
it's a pretty penny.
A lot of money there. Which has been such a luxury lately. I spent $407 today and didn't even feel nauseous as I left the store. Why? Because my groceries category still had just under $600 in it. Even after my shop, I know I still have more than enough money to see me through next weekend's shop. Thank you, YNAB, for the ability to shop free from anxiety. I mean, this is exactly what we're talking about. What Michelle M is saying here. Someone who makes good money. It's not an income issue, but still feeling that worry around everyday spending at the grocery store, at Costco. There's that nauseousness of like, what did I just do? Is this going to come back to bite me? Give every dollar a job, and that completely goes away. Now there's that clarity, that confidence, and you can truly enjoy your Costco experience now.
I mean, yeah, it just dropped $400. I love it. I love as you said, I didn't even feel nauseous. Like, that shouldn't be something like it just shouldn't be something that we deal with. You shouldn't be leaving the grocery store. You're buying food for your family. Like you're not doing something irresponsible, and you feel nauseous, right? Life should not be that way, but it doesn't have to be. This is a person who got good with money, really, truly.
Yep.
Dropped $400. And didn't even worry about it because they knew everything was covered. Just because of that one little thing, they asked themselves, what does this money need to do before I get paid again? And plan the money out accordingly. And no longer feeling nauseous leaving Costco.
Love it.
I love to see it. Love to see it.
All right. Sign number 2 that you're bad with money. Every inconvenience is an emergency.
Okay. I really like this one. This is a good way to frame it. So, we're talking about non-monthly expenses here, and a huge part of the YNAB method, what we do is we look at these expenses that don't happen every single month, that are usually a little more expensive, right? And we set money aside for them every single month. So we turn these non-monthly expenses into monthly bills by setting a little money aside. So you got like your car repair, for example. You don't know exactly how much it's going to cost, but you know it's going to cost something. So you say, okay, instead of having a big bill that comes up when my car breaks down and freaking out, I'm just going to set aside $100, $150, $200, whatever it is, aside every single month, and then you'll have the money when the car breaks down, right? And so if you don't do this, if you're a person who is bad with money and doesn't take care of these things, every single little inconvenience, every single car repair, every single bill that you weren't expecting, every single non-monthly expense is an emergency. It's a pants on fire situation because you weren't prepared for it, right?
Oh man, this is so me. Like I was so bad with money because of this one reason here. I mean, even something like birthday gifts. Something really simple like, oh my goodness, I don't have any money for gifts, and so now this inconvenience becomes this financial emergency. And sure, it's not a lot of money, but my brain is scrambling. I'm trying to come up with a plan for how am I going to afford this and then get through the rest of the month.
Yeah.
And, then you start adding in some of those bigger things like a new brake job or something goes wrong at the house, a medical bill, a vet bill, and oh my goodness, we got emergencies everywhere now.
Yeah. And I think it's a mindset thing. Like, okay, you talked about the birthday gifts. This is a perfect example because I've got 4 kids who are all of the age now where they're getting invited to birthday parties. Okay. So, I mean, every time I turn around, there's like, I got to spend $30.
We won't rant about this. We did this in the last episode, but yeah.
Was that the last episode? Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I'm still thinking about it. But every time I turn around, I got to spend $30 on some gift. And even though I've been using YNAB for a long time, I didn't have a category for this. And now I do. I set money aside for it. And I'm constantly surprised because every time it comes up, I have that feeling like, oh, this is not just an inconvenience, this is an emergency. Because I have to figure it out, right? But then I look at my category, my gifts category, and it's got money in it every time because I figured out the right amount to put aside every month. And man, it feels so cool. And it actually is enjoyable to buy a little gift for my kid's friend, So it's special. It's nice. So yeah, that's a really good example right there. But it also applies to the bigger things in life too. These things that so many people call emergencies that really don't have to be. I mean, like you look at you got that credit card just for emergencies, but how do you define it, right? I mean, like is I always go to the car repair. Is the car repair really an emergency? Like you're going to need to put tires on the car, right?
Yep.
This is a part of having a car. This is the true cost of having a car. So you spend the money and you're like, well, it's an emergency as I put it on debt. And you're like, but is it though? Right? Is it really an emergency? Because I should be able to expect this. I should be able to look forward and see that it's coming. And so I think the mindset when you're bad with money is these things come up and I'm just kind of a victim of them. Like there's nothing I can do about it. I just have to use debt, or I have to say no to things that I don't want to say no to, or I have to, or I'm just like kind of woe is me all the time because I'm constantly getting battered around. When you're good with money, you look at it and say, no, there is something I can do about this. I can prepare for these by setting money aside every single month for all these bills and all these expenses that don't happen every month. And they don't have to be emergencies, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's the same thing as we talked about with the first sign. It's going from reactive to proactive. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to think about it until it actually happens, and then I'll make my plan. You mentioned the credit card, just always having that credit card available in case something happens, or I mentioned scrambling. I remember that, something would happen. Okay, now I have to come up with a plan. So I'm scrambling around. I'm running around with my, like I'm a chicken with their head cut off, trying to figure out what to do next. Or maybe it's just, you're pulling money from savings. You're using money that was intended for something else. And you're like, well, I'm always able to pay for the thing, but it never feels good because you're like, oh, I'm dipping into my savings. I'm using money that I wanted to use for something else for this thing that I hadn't made a plans for. So we're doing all the planning on the front end. So when those things happen, it's just like, no big deal.
Yeah. So we said, so the sign that you're bad with money, every inconvenience is an emergency. The flip of that is emergencies become just inconveniences, right? Like, I don't like having to fix my car when it breaks down, not so much because I have to spend the money, but because I have to like take time out of my day to bring the car to the mechanic and then go and find somebody to help me go pick it up, that kind of stuff. It's just an inconvenience. It's annoying, but it's not an emergency. It's not a pants on fire situation because I set money aside for it every single month, right? And that goes for anything that doesn't happen every single month, but does happen. These things are part of your life. And if you embrace them by setting money aside for them every month, those emergencies just become inconveniences.
I love those emails that we get, and we get them all the time where people are like, this happened, then that.
Yeah.
Then they just go through this long list.
We've all had those months or like summers where like everything went wrong,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, it was no fun. Like, I didn't want to give my money to all these different things, but hey, it wasn't a big deal. It was life, and I was able to move on without that worry.
Yeah. So every inconvenience is an emergency becomes every emergency is just an inconvenience. And we have one of those emails now. Should we read it now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Jamie in Dallas said, "Hi, Ben and Ernie. I was going to save my YNAB win until after I finished my first More Money challenge this month, but I had a $677 car expense today." This is one thing I love about YNABers wins. They're very exact. Right? Like Michelle said, I spent $407 at the Costco.
Right.
And Jamie's like 677 because you can look it up. You have a record of all of your expenses. You can just go look it up. Yeah. So Jamie said, I had a $677 car expense today, and I hyperventilated for a few minutes. But then I remembered. One, I have $394 in my car maintenance category. Two, I have $935 in my more money category because he was doing this challenge, right? It hurt to take the money out of my more money to cover it, but then my panic was over and calm ensued. I love that. And the best part of it all, I'm not a high income earner. I am a home health aide with an overspending problem. YNAB might be the best financial decision I ever made. Jamie, I love that story because, yeah, you had that panic moment, but then you dealt with it. And it wasn't even just, oh, I had the money in the car maintenance category and it was no big deal. You didn't have enough, but you could look through your other categories and find the money really quickly because if you're a YNABer, you just tend to save money. It's just a thing that happens, right? And so even if you can't cover it right away, you'll find a way to deal with it. You have a framework for making decisions and you're okay with it. And just like you said, like you didn't like spending the money on that. It's kind of a bummer. You'd love to spend it on something more fun, but it wasn't an emergency. The calm just came right in, and I love to see that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I love this transformation. Hyperventilated to calm, panic to calm, right? There's sometimes there's that moment you're like, oh crap, what's going to happen? But then when you open up YNAB, you look at the numbers, you're like, oh, we got this thing.
Oh yeah. So I've been using YNAB for a million years now. And that still happens, right? Where I'm like, like you hit that number and you're just like, what am I going to do? And then, but even if you don't have the money to cover that category specifically right this second, you can find it. 9 times out of 10, you can find it. And you just are able to deal with it. Yeah. And it's fine. And you're like, oh, what? I didn't need to freak out.
And I really appreciate that Jamie mentioned they're not a high income earner. Because I think sometimes that's the pushback we get. Like, oh, it'd be great to save for non-monthlies or get a month ahead, if I had as much money as all these other people.
Right.
But generally, for most people that are following along, they have enough money. And they just need to get intentional about what that money is doing. And they realize, I think like it was the first YNAB win of like, oh my goodness, I have more money than I ever expected or knew that I had, right? And usually it's just you're having to kind of give up some of your fun money so that it can start being diverted to the non-monthly expenses. But you don't have to have Bill Gates kind of money
Yeah.
to accomplish this stuff.
Well, it's true. I mean, I think there's a lot of people watching this or listening to this that don't use YNAB yet. We hear it all the time. I'm like, oh, how'd you
like,
find
why
us?
are you listening?
Like, how'd you even know about us? Or they'll just say like, I listened to Budget Nerds for a long time and then I went for it, And I think some of you guys might be feeling this. You're like, man, that sounds like really intense. Like, I feel like I don't have enough money just for my basic needs. So, like, how do I set money aside for future expenses that haven't even happened yet? And for some of you, that might be the case. All you might be able to take care of right now is your everyday expenses, and then you might need to use debt or some other way for these non-monthly things. And if that's all you can do, you're still going to be way better off. You're still going to have a lot more peace of mind. But I think for most of you, what you're going to find if you try YNAB, if you jump in there and you start planning, like Michelle said, you're going to find, oh, I actually have a lot more money than I thought. It just was going to different places that I didn't really even value that much. And you're going to be able to find that, yeah, you actually can set aside for these things and start to feel more peace. So
and I
just
think
try it.
More importantly, too, or just as important, is you're building a new habit here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's how you get good with money, is you do something different that gives you a different result. And so every time you're paid, you're setting a little bit aside. Even if it's $10 for car repairs, it's something more. It's 10 more than what you were doing before. And you get in that habit, paycheck after paycheck after paycheck. Fast forward 5, 10, 15 years, your income is increasing, you still have that habit, and now you're just really rolling.
Yeah. All right. Should we move on?
Let's
Next
do
one?
it.
All right, next sign that you are bad with money. You live paycheck to paycheck. There you go. And I feel like this isn't super well defined. Like, what does it mean to live paycheck to paycheck? What does that look like practically, Ernie? Can you answer that?
You are desperately waiting on that next paycheck, right? You've got this, I mean, just picture your house right now and where you keep your bills. And you see that just stacking up. And then every time you look at them, you're like, okay, when I get paid on Friday, those bills are going to get paid, right? I need that future paycheck to take care of these bills right now.
Yeah. Or you have like this mental bill of like, I can't do anything fun until Friday when I get my paycheck, right?
Right.
You have this like almost like emotional bill that's building up because you've been holding back on all your spending until you get a paycheck. So if you know, like down to the wire, down to the day when your next paycheck is coming, you might be bad with money, right? But you can get good with it. You can get so good with it by breaking this paycheck to paycheck cycle. But before we talk about like how to break the paycheck to paycheck cycle, I think we should talk a little bit more about why living this way is so damaging, right? Well, for one thing, your whole life just revolves around when your employer decides to pay you, right? Or even if you're self-employed, when your clients decide to pay you, right? Your whole life. So like you have to say no to so many things. Like you might have to say no to going out with friends or say no to a vacation, just not because you don't have the money, right? Not because you don't make enough money, you don't have enough income, but because you don't have the money yet. You know what I mean? And so oh gosh, it just drives me nuts because I feel like there's so many people living like this right now, and they make good money. Like they make money to be able to handle everything they need and a lot of what they want, but they still have to say no to opportunities or live really tight for like a few days or weeks before their next paycheck, not because they don't have the money, but because they don't have the money yet. It's because of this pay cycle thing. It's just a cash flow problem. And it just feels so dumb. Like it just makes me so mad that there's so many people who are just struggling, not because they don't make enough money, but because they have this cash flow issue. And it's just like, if you could just get past 2 weeks of spending or a month of spending, everything gets so much easier. And there's also like an administration overload thing that happens when you're like this. Do you want to talk about that, Ernie?
Yeah, absolutely. But to kind of continue on your point, what I was thinking of, when you're paycheck to paycheck, you have zero options.
Yeah,
zero options because your bank balance is just, you're running on fumes. You're relying on that next paycheck. So something pops up and you're like, oh, well, I can't do that. Or I'm gonna have to do that later. And that is never fun, right? When something pops up, generally it's something we want to jump at.
Yeah.
But a lot of times we can't when we're paycheck to paycheck.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, I think a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to plan my spending. I don't want to use YNAB because I feel like it's going to restrict me. Like I'm going to have to say no to things, or I'm going to have to like scrutinize all my spending. But like so many people are doing that now because they're waiting on another paycheck, or they're always having to do this mental math of all this timing. And that goes back to the beginning where we were talking about every single expense. You're just like, you're doing all this mental math. Like, okay, well, I can spend this amount, but I got this electric bill coming out on the 27th, so I got to be sure. And my paycheck doesn't come until the 30th, so I got to wait. You know, it's like it's just this whole there's just this whole rigmarole going on in your head all the time, and it's just a stressful way to live. You can't do the things you want to do, and also you're constantly thinking about just administrative timing issues.
Yeah.
Right?
So to speak to those administrative issues, it's juggling that stuff in your head, juggling due dates, amounts, trying to like time everything out perfectly. It's the thought of, oh my goodness, I have this auto draft set up. I hope that doesn't fire before my paycheck.
Right.
And worrying that it might.
Yeah. You spend all this time on timing, right? And bank balances, like making sure that I move money from savings over to this checking account just in the nick of time so that this bill comes out. And it's just like, here's the deal. Like a lot of you guys might be saying like, well, yeah, I live paycheck to paycheck, but I'm actually good with money because I've got that dialed in. Like some of you guys are really type A and you're like, I've got the timing just perfectly lined up. Like where this bill comes out this day and this bill, but the deal is it's kind of fragile. Like what if you didn't get paid one day? Like, or what if something went wrong, or a bill was larger than you expected? The whole thing kind of falls apart. So it's really fragile, but also you are spending so much time and energy focused on timing and bank balances and the dates of bills and all this stuff and cash flow issues. And you're spending all your financial energy on that, and you don't have any financial energy to spend on, what do I want my life to look like? How do I want to spend my money? Right? Asking those sorts of questions, those bigger questions. And so you're constantly in this rat race all the time. So you might feel like you're good with money because you're really good at the timing thing, but people that are really good with money don't even have to worry about the timing thing, right?
This might surprise some folks. I'm a budget nerd, right?
Mm-hmm.
I honestly don't even know the exact amounts or the exact due dates of most of my bills.
Yeah.
I mean, our mortgage, like I have to regularly look into YNAB as to how much our mortgage payment absolutely is. I mean, I know it's set up on auto draft on the first of every single month, but that exact amount, like I just don't care.
Yeah.
Because it's taken care of. And so now all that stuff is out of my head. And I get to fill it with other meaningless information, like, you know, what the Minnesota Vikings are going to be doing in the offseason to become, you know, that path to Super Bowl champs, hopefully sometime eventually. But yeah, the money stuff, which I used to constantly think about. I mean, it's just always running in the background of my mind. I'm done with that. Money has become easy. It just does its own thing in the background. I know it's taken care of, and I fill my mind with other junk now.
Yeah. So if you feel like you're good with money because you're really good at that cash flow planning thing from day to day, that's not what we're talking about. To be really good with money, you don't even have to play that game. And the way you do that is you get a month ahead. That's how you do it. You break the paycheck to paycheck cycle by planning your spending with real money that you actually have in the bank, fully funding an entire month before that month even begins. So you're fully funded on the first. And it just you only have to do this once. This is the coolest thing.
Yes.
If you can save that money, if you can really make this a goal, like something that you actually go after, like the same thing, like if you were going to buy a car or you were going to like get a down payment for a house, like make it something that you're actually going after, that you're going to fund a full month's of expenses before the month actually begins. If you just do that once, then you can perpetually live a month ahead, because when I get paid today, I don't need that money for 30 days. I just stick it into the next month, right? And it just sits there. So instead of like what Ernie was talking about, instead of having that big pile of bills that are waiting for your paycheck, right? You got that big pile of bills waiting for money. You have a big pile of money that's waiting for the bills to arrive so you can pay them, right? So you're ahead of it. You're not behind it all the time.
That feeling never gets old. Like a bill comes, whether it's big or small, and I'm just able to pay it like on the spot. Man, I'm like, hey, I am good at this money thing.
I had that happen with, and this is getting more back to the non-monthly stuff, but I had to buy 2 tires and it was like a proper tire store. Like they sell rims. The guy tried to sell me rims for my Cadillac. And I was like, well, if I was going to buy rims, this would be the car
right?
to do it, right? But like the first thing he says, and I think this is how really they make most of their money at this shop, is financing it. They're like, hey, you want to finance these tires, right? Or can you pay cash? I'm like, I can pay cash. Like, don't even talk to me about it. You know what I mean? And I felt a little, almost like a little embarrassed. Like I was like flexing my like wealth. Like I was like, I'm going to pay cash, but like, it's not because I'm a jerky rich person. Okay. I'm a regular guy. Like I don't make that much money. I just,
I use this app and it has this method.
You know what I mean? Like I want to explain it because I don't want to be like, I want to be like, hey, don't even talk to me about financing. I'm not one of those people. No, like, like if you need to, that's fine. And just saying like, I was able to just say, no, I'm going to pay cash because I have been planning for this ahead of time for a while. Like it wasn't a surprise to me that the tires needed to be replaced. It was a bit of a surprise how bad they were, and how I need to check the thread because they're like, hey, your tires are going to explode. So I need to do better about that. But it wasn't a surprise that I need to replace them. Right. So this is the thing. It's like, you can do rich people stuff like paying cash for your tires and not financing it. Even if you're not a rich person, even if you're just a regular middle class person, right? You can do this.
And I think it's worth saying here too, this doesn't happen overnight. I mean, sometimes there's cases like with Michelle M where, you run through the method of giving every dollar a job and you're like, whoa, I have more than I knew. And you get a month ahead, like right there in the spot. Yeah. But for a lot of people, it's a very gradual process. Sometimes it takes many, many months, sometimes many, many years. But getting even just a little bit ahead. And so what I mean is like you take care of this month first, and then whatever's left over, if there is money left over, you start putting it towards next month. And you keep building on, how far out in front of those next month's expenses that you are. So sometimes maybe it's just being a month ahead on the Netflix bill. Yeah. Then it's a month ahead on Netflix and your phone bill, right? And you keep kind of getting further and further ahead until you are eventually that full month ahead.
Yeah. So it's the benefits start coming. It's not like you have to get there before you feel any of the benefits. They start arriving more and more as you do this. And and all of these things take time. I mean, the non-monthly expenses take time. I think the only thing that can be really instant for a lot of people is not having to worry about your everyday spending, right? That first thing where the first time you give every dollar a job, you're going to start feeling better. But, like I said, like the gifts thing, I had to set up a new category for that because it was just a new thing that came into my life, right? So this is never something that you finish completely. It's something that gradually comes. And so long as you're working on it, you're getting good with money.
All right, something else I wanted to say, and this is kind of getting into the weeds, but it came out of our discussion a couple episodes ago where we were talking about the stages of an emergency fund. And we got to talking about basically for YNABers, an emergency fund becomes a job loss fund. And then we had some YNABers and we have some internal members, Hannah's one of them, who doesn't have a job loss fund, but they just fund in future months. And I realized that my month ahead, that money could be used for anything. Yeah. It really, like if there was a major emergency, I could use it, but I really don't want to. Like, so in my mind, that next month is completely for making money easy. Right. And if I could avoid it at all costs, I'm only using money for emergencies that is past that next month. So 2+ months out.
Yeah, you said that in the when we did a live Q&A, you said you might even use debt. Like if you lost a job or something, you might even use debt before you use that next month, that 1 month ahead fund, right? Because you get all the ease, all the convenience, all the not having to worry about timing because you're 1 month out. But then if you go any further, that's more for like an emergency fund or a job loss fund, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're thinking? Yeah, I saw all those comments and I've been thinking about it too. And I'm like, yeah, I think really the first month you get ahead is for ease.
Yep.
It's for making things easier in your life. It's for handling all these timing and cash flow problems. And then if you go even further, like I like to be 2 months ahead. And really the second month is more for security. Than anything else.
Yeah, totally. Okay, here is a YNAB win from Pam. Pam had emailed us about some student loan stuff and then ended with this. Although a crushing amount of student loan debt lives on, we are and have been a month ahead in our budget for over a year now, thanks to YNAB. It feels great to know that I don't have to crunch numbers and worry paycheck to paycheck about the next bill. And then there's 2 heart emojis.
Love the two. I love that you included the emojis because it matters.
It does, yeah. And I love this win so much. I think this is fantastic, Pam. And we talk about this all the time where I think naturally people want to prioritize debt. And we're just saying, hey, hold up here. Like maybe consider prioritizing getting that month ahead. Because once money's easy, boy, you have all this emotional and mental space freed up to then tackle your debt. And so at least consider it.
Yeah, the key here for me is just that it feels great to know that I don't have to crunch numbers, right? Like I don't have to do I think that's a really good way. Like the number crunching, the spreadsheets, like that is that's maybe what you're doing and you feel like you're good with money because you're really good at that. But how much better would you be with money if you didn't even have to do that because all your bills are on auto pay because you've set money aside for that bill a month ago, right? It's just a better way to live. It's just a better way to live.
Yeah. So here's Pam, all this student loan debt, and she's good with money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
Love that. Okay. All right. Next sign that you are bad with money. You don't set aside money for yourself. This is good. I think this is
so good.
Yeah, because people need to hear this. Like, I think sometimes we think if you are good with money, you have no fun. You don't do anything cool because you're just sending all that money to your 401k and you're getting rich and you're, you know what I mean? Like you're optimizing this and that, right? But people that are good with money have fun with their money. They do nice things for themselves. They go after goals that are big. Some of them are small. They go after those things too. And that means you're good with money. It doesn't mean that you are irresponsible or bad with money.
Absolutely. I remember I was talking to this one guy. I mean, this was years ago, and there's no way this dude listens to the show or even knows who I am at this point in time. But
sure,
he was bragging about never ever spending money on himself.
Yeah. This is the vibe.
I mean, he was talking about he doesn't even buy socks. They're all filled with holes and completely dirty and just this rag that he's throwing on his foot. And I'm thinking like, dude, like, that's not cool. Like, I don't think you're good with money.
Like, bro, this isn't the vibe. You got the vibe wrong. Like,
right. I'd be much more impressed if you're like, man, I really take care of my feet. You know, every month I'm buying myself a new pair of socks because it matters to me.
Because it matters to me. Yeah. I love that because I do think like frugality is a virtue. I think there is something to that. Like just like being frugal and like being considerate with how you spend your money. But I think there's a point where it can get kind of toxic.
Yes.
So where the point where you say, I take pride in never enjoying my money. That's not being good with money. That's being pretty bad with money because the whole point of money, the whole point of doing all this work to attain that money is to spend it, is to build a life that you want. And that might mean spending that money on yourself. It might mean spending money to build up your community or help others. It might be doing both, but you should be spending it, not hoarding it. I think that's when frugality goes too far, is when you are not spending money just because you think spending money is bad, right? You attribute this like moral problem with buying socks for yourself. Right. That's when it gets really toxic. And I think a lot of the personal finance space kind of has that vibe sometimes. But we're here to say, no, the point of money is to spend it. Money's meant to be spent, and it's meant to be spent on yourself and to enjoy good things, even if that's a pair of socks that doesn't have holes in it.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
And sometimes it's not a choice. Sometimes it's maybe something that was ingrained in you, when you were growing up, raised, like that saving money. You got to save money. Just don't spend it, just try to save. And so even though you maybe want to spend some money on yourself, it's just hard for you to do that because you constantly feel that guilt or that you're doing something wrong. We hear that quite a bit around the community.
I hear it. When I hear that the most, I feel like lately is when people go into retirement. And somebody said we should do a retirement episode, like using YNAB in retirement. I think that'd be a good idea.
I'm saying, folks, I'm going on the record. We are doing a retirement episode.
Yeah,
we
I
will.
Think it's good.
And we're going to, I really want to make sure we do this one well. So I'm going to think through it, but yes, because we've gotten so many requests.
You've been spending your whole life saving this money for retirement. And then when it comes time to retire, a lot of folks have a really hard time flipping that switch and start spending it. They feel like they're doing something wrong. And of course you do, because you've been saving this money your whole life. And you're like, oh, now I'm supposed to just all of a sudden flip the switch and stop saving and start spending. Right. And that can be a really hard thing to get over. And so I think a lot of folks that use YNAB in retirement really do themselves a service because they can see, okay, I can spend this amount and be okay. Right. And not just okay, but really thrive. Because and you see, this is why I've been saving my whole life. Is so I can enjoy this time, so I can enjoy the retirement.
Yeah, and the other side of that, because I think there definitely is a piece of you've been saving your whole life. It's tough to flip that switch and start spending it now, but there's that worry, that constant worry of am I going to run out? Is this going to last me? Especially if you are just jumping into retirement. Mm-hmm. And that's where when you give every dollar a job, when you make a proactive plan like you do at YNAB, boy, now you've got that clarity and that confidence of what exactly you can do, and you can kind of help pace yourself. Basically, you're giving yourself permission to spend.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a sign you're good with money. Instead of saying this mindset, it's kind of this Eeyore mindset of well, I can't do anything because I'm just a victim and everything's against me. And it feels that way when you don't plan your spending, right? Because you're constantly living in all these emergencies, or you're focused on all this paycheck to paycheck stuff, or you're worrying about your everyday expenses, right? So you feel like I couldn't possibly set money aside to go on a nice vacation or something like that. And you kind of have this constant, just victim mindset where it's just I can't do anything for myself. Instead, you say, you know what? I can do this. Even if it's just, I'm going to set aside $10 a month to go on this trip to Italy that I want to go on, right? YNABers do this all the time. They set aside tiny amounts for these things because they know that if they start moving the ball that way, it's going to start to snowball. I mean, I'm not saying you're going to be able to go to Italy anytime soon on $10 a month, but if you set that intention and you say, you know what, this is something I can do, I can go after, right? You're going to find ways to move money into that direction. I really do believe it. It's just a mindset shift. It's really powerful.
Yeah. So every time you're paid, ask yourself, what priorities, large or small, do I want to prioritize?
Yeah.
And so I really do appreciate that we put small priorities in there because, it could be, if the $10 to Italy, it could be $5 for donuts. I think that was Jesse's example that we always talk about. Early on in our YNAB journey, Christy and I were giving ourselves $10 a month. Then it went to $20. So it wasn't much, but it's just something to look forward to, something besides the bills, besides the true expenses that we could say this is ours and we get to spend it guilt-free. And then for partners, hey, no judgment whatsoever. You don't even have to tell me about how you spend your fun money. I don't care. Do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. I think this is a principle that you should have. Even if it's a tiny amount, do something for yourself, because you need to remind yourself, you need to celebrate. You need to remind yourself money's meant to be spent and it's meant to be enjoyed. And that's what we're doing here. And we notice when we say what goals, large or small, do I want to prioritize? The principle is not do everything you want to do, right? It's not spend money on everything you want to spend money on, because we're still embracing this scarcity of our money. We're still saying, okay, I can do some things, but I can't do everything. And so the question is, what goals, large or small, do I want to prioritize? What do I want to put first? And that means you're going to say no to some things. So, unless you're, bajillionaire, you can't say yes to everything. I mean, even the bajillionaires, they're like, oh, well, I could get that super duper super yacht. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like honestly, there's never enough, right? So there's going to be things that you say no to, but there's going to be things that you say yes to as well. And a person that's good with money says yes to some of those things that they want.
And I found it's not hard saying no to myself. Every single month, I say no to numerous things in the plan. There's not enough to cover everything. Those burial plots. Some months I'm like, well, there's $10, but other months it's like, no, you're not getting anything.
Right.
And because I know eventually there will be money for those things.
Yeah.
Like I will get to those priorities eventually.
Yeah. I think there's sometimes in your life, like it's okay to survive, not thrive a little bit.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
There's
like
seasons.
You might have these things that you're going for and you're like, well, right now it's just not going to get funded. But you have this mindset shift of like, I'm still going to keep my eye on those things because I know that eventually things are going to change and I'm going to be able to go after them. It's okay to say no to some things right now if you need to, but don't say you'll never go after them, right? It's just more of a mindset shift than anything else.
Well, let's get into this win from Manila. Do you want to read this, Ben?
Yeah, sure. Okay. This was from Manila. They wrote in on the feeling stuck video, which I don't even remember what that one is. but maybe it's like similar to what we were talking about.
It was probably 2 years ago.
Yeah. Anyways, they said, my YNAB win. I'm going out to fun events without feeling guilty. I was told from a young age that I needed to save money. So I did. Putting all my money into my savings account, no goal in sight, just saving for the sake of saving. I would never buy tickets to fun events or purchase new clothes when I needed them because I always feel guilty about potentially needing that money for something important in the future. With YNAB, I am now able to set aside money in my enjoy life category. And I love this. They have a little rainbow emoji next to enjoy life. Like, I just love it. My enjoy life category, dedicated to leaving my house and doing fun things. Since I created the category, I've gone to trivia nights, book release parties, arts and crafts with friends, dinners at restaurants with family, a concert, a cooking workshop, and have recently been overspending in that category every month. Way to go. While overspending doesn't sound like a good thing, I am so glad because it means I am having fun and making memories. Couldn't have done it without YNAB. Oh, I love to see that. And I love that you are celebrating the overspending because, yeah, I mean, like, you do need to deal with that, but it's a sign of a mindset shift, right? Where you're actually like, I'm going to enjoy my life. I'm going to enjoy the things that money can bring me. And just look at that list. It's all about people. You know what I mean?
I love it so much. I mean, can you imagine the deathbed experience of like, I've got all this money in this account that I'm now going to bequeath to someone and I didn't do anything with it. I didn't live my life.
I didn't invest in people. I mean, literally all of these, I think that she talked about is something that you do with other people. And what a richer life Manila has as a result of this. This is what money can do for you if you are willing to get good with it. And getting good with it means setting money aside for these things that make life rich. I love that.
Fifth and final sign that you're bad with money. You don't change your plan.
There we go.
It's rigid.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sticking with it because if I do change it, I'm cheating.
Yeah.
Or I'm doing something wrong. Budgets can't be changed.
I love this because I think you could have all of these things that you're talking about. Like you could be setting money aside for your everyday spending, so you're not worried about that. You could be taking care of non-monthlies. All those inconveniences are just they're just inconveniences. They're not emergencies. You might even be a month ahead, right? You might even set some money aside for yourself. But if you never change your plan, I'm going on record to say you're still bad with money, right? Because you never know. You don't know what life is going to look like 3 weeks from now. I mean, you set money aside for something and you run out, and do you just say no, or do you change the plan if you want to go after it? Your priorities and your circumstances change all the time, and it is okay. In fact, it's smart to change that plan, because what you're doing when you do that is you're weighing your trade-offs. You're saying, okay, this thing right now is more important to me than that. But imagine if you just said, well, even though this thing is more important than that thing, because 3 weeks ago I set more money aside for that, that means that I have to say no to the thing that I value the most. That's not good with money, right?
Yeah.
That's being bad with money. Being good with money is saying, okay, my circumstances have changed, my priorities have changed. I'm going to take that money from that less important category and move it over here so I can enjoy that new thing that I'm going after, right? That's being good with money. It's weighing the trade-offs, not just once, not just right when you get paid, but every day whenever you're making decisions like this.
And maybe it's not saying no to that opportunity. Maybe it's saying yes to it, but still penalizing yourself. Still at the end of the month, I want to find all the places where I have overspent.
Yeah.
And I want to give myself a grade. Oh, I overspent on 5 categories. I got a D- for the month. Like that's not being good with money.
Yeah, it's a big mindset shift here too. I think that a lot of folks feel like as soon as they start using YNAB, they have to, and when you first start, you're gonna get so many of these numbers so wrong. Anyways, like I hear folks that say, okay, I only need to spend $50 on groceries for the whole month, right? Right? Because you don't know, like you're just getting into it, right?
Yeah.
So if you aren't changing your plan, you're not admitting that life is full of surprises and your circumstances are changing and the things that you want change too. So the goal here, we're not trying to make a plan for the sake and stick to the plan for the sake of sticking to the plan. We're trying to make a plan and be able to be fluid enough to where we can recognize what we actually value and what we value less and make sure our money flows that way. And sometimes that means changing your plan. Or if you don't mind me saying one more thing, sometimes you might say no. Like, let me give you a more concrete example because I've been saying a lot of this and that, right? Like, let's say you get to the end of the month, your dining out category is zilch, it's at 0, but you really don't want to cook tonight, right? And you look at your plan and you say, okay, well, is there anywhere I can move money from other categories? And you say, you know what? I could move money from this vacation category, or I could move money from this like car insurance category for this bill that's due in 6 months. But you know what? I actually value those things higher than not cooking tonight, right? And so you might say, you know what? Yeah, I think I am going to just buck up and cook something tonight and not go out to eat, not because you are saying I got to stick to this rigid plan, but because you realize that you don't want to make that trade-off, right? So even if you do say no to yourself, you know why you're saying no. And so it feels so much better. It's not like this white knuckle, mean-spirited discipline on yourself. It's no, I'm saying no because I actually want to go on that trip to Italy or whatever it is. And I value that higher, right? So sometimes you might not change your plan, but you're still good with money because you know why you're not changing your plan, right?
Yeah. This made, as you were talking through that, this made me think like just beyond money, this has made me, I feel like a better person. I have a very rigid personality.
Okay.
Like
okay.
I'm steeped in discipline. You know, I'm going to work out on these days at this time and I stick to it no matter what. And I kind of wanted that same approach with money as well. So I found as I was getting good with money, learning to make those adjustments, it cascaded into other areas of my life where, I'm a little bit looser. I'm not as uptight in all these other areas as well.
Well, if you do this practice of like weighing the trade-offs, like you start to not judge other people's choices, I think, a lot of times, because like you say like, well, I would never spend money that way. And the way I do it is right. So I'm judging them, right? No, instead you start saying, well, I wouldn't spend that money this way but it's not because I'm morally righteous. It's because I value these other things more. And they might value that other thing more than I do. And that's fine. And so you just kind of become a more open person, because I think you do this over and over again and you realize people make choices not because of, well, sometimes it's because of a moral problem, but usually it's not because of a moral problem. It's just because they value something different than you do. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, right? So I think that's huge.
Yeah. So get good at money, make those adjustments.
Yeah. And the way you do this is you're always asking yourself, what changes do I need to make, if any? Make the plan and ask yourself that question all the time. And then make those adjustments with your eyes wide open, weighing those trade-offs every time.
In workshops, I will often tell the group of new YNABers, hey, you can tell you're doing this right if you are making a lot of changes.
Yes.
If you give a job to every single dollar and then you wake up the next day and you're like, oh, actually, I need a little bit more money here, or I forgot about this expense, let's plan for it there. Making those changes is a sign that you're using the app right and you're getting good with money.
And just a little aside here, if I can say this, I think this is why I think it's really good that we've moved away from calling ourselves a budget. You know what I mean? We've
Say more.
We've talked about this before. I think, some people are like, okay, guys, like this is a little, like, come on, just call it what it is. And it's like, well, it's really different. Like, I think what people bring with that B word, that budget word, and we still have the name of the show, Budget Nerds, but we get it, right? Is this idea of rigidness, like this moral thing where you can't change your plan or you're a bad person. But YNAB isn't like that. In fact, it's the opposite of that. It's more of a framework for making decisions instead of setting a limit and never going over it no matter what, right? And so I think that's why when we call it a plan, when we talk about changing your plan and weighing those trade-offs all the time, I think it's actually more accurate to what it is. And it doesn't have, people don't bring in all these preconceived notions into it. So I really am really glad we've kind of moved away from calling it that, because I think it really is powerful what we're doing here. We're just making a framework for making decisions. We're not making a budget, right?
The YNAB win we have for this point is from Daisy. Daisy said, I am a new budget nerd and got YNAB less than 2 months ago. Since finding you guys 2 to 3 months ago, I have streamed 898 minutes. So there's that specific number.
Very specific. YNABers are like this. I love it.
Well, that's a lot of time, Daisy.
I'm sorry you had to hear us talk that long. No, but you liked it. You chose this.
My YNAB win. I use my van for work as a dog trainer and got a hefty €900 bill. Since starting to plan for true expenses, I factored in van repairs, and although I didn't have the whole amount, I managed to roll with the punches. Mm-hmm. So Daisy made a change and find it without having to borrow money. Thank you, YNAB and Budget Nerds.
Oh, I love that, Daisy. Yeah, you weighed the trade-offs and you made a plan. You dealt with what you need to deal with. And so, so sometimes it's not even for things you want. Sometimes it's for, these boring things like having to fix a van, right? But you figured it out. You made a way to make those changes, and now you can just roll right along, quite literally,
and no debt. I mean, that's huge. I mean, let's play it out. If Daisy hadn't been YNABing, hadn't been setting money aside for that van repair, and that €900 bill hits, okay, so now I got to take out some debt, and imagine all the anxiety swirling around that particular situation. Like, oh, how am I going to pay this off? Or it's another added expense every single month. Or what if something else happens? It feels like we go down that path and that worry is just compounding month after month.
Yeah. And you're kind of taking away some of your power of your cash flow because now you're obligated to pay it back. And instead you found the money and you made it work. So love to see it.
All right. Well, there we go. 5 signs you're bad with money. And we walked through what it looks like to do the alternative, to get good with money. I hope this has been helpful and insightful, and we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Otherwise, if you want to email us, budgetnerds@ynab.com.
All right. We'll see you again in 2 weeks. Happy YNABing.
Happy YNABing.